Lakeview Village is a hidden treasure.
Most of the residents are in independent living, and so they're really a physically active community.
And I don't have a big support system except for my financial advisor. And she said, Penny, I don't care where you go. I just want you to go to a life care program.
I've been at Lakeview Village 5 years. We came to Lakeview Village when we were 70. I like that it's a place where we can stay and be cared for.
And the thing about Lakeview is if you qualify financially and especially medically, they will take care of you for the rest of your life.
The community's been here about 58 years, and I thought that's some longevity.
I thought it was a little early for us to come here. But after about 6 months, I realized, no, you need to come to Lakeview as quick as you can because there's so much stuff to do here. There's more things to do here than you got time to do.
Art, music, writing, poetry and prose, card-playing clubs, exercise groups.
Well, the first thing that I saw over here was the indoor warm water, 68 degree swimming pool, salt water. And so my exercise is getting up in the morning and going over to Heritage and swimming my mile.
There are always activities going on. If I want to go to the theater, to the opera, to the symphony, I can sign up for a bus and not have to worry about the parking or the driving and come back.
A few of us who are interested gathered together to talk about creating Lakeview Village University, taught by our residents. Can't bring somebody else in to do it. You teach it. To financial aid things by people who know what they're talking about, to a woman who has featured just come bring your favorite music. But this is kind of special when it's really taught by people who've lived their lives in that field doing some things.
And they encourage people to have pets because it keeps you more active.
And people are extremely friendly.
I go downstairs at 6 o'clock every night, eat dinner with interesting people, people who have had different life experiences than I've had, some who have had similar life experiences that I've had.
There were all kinds of housing options from single-family homes to high-rise apartments, and when I toured this building, the North Point building, I was shown an apartment on the 5th floor facing the lake that's behind me, and that did it.
The tower had my living, and it had my studio, it had the restaurant, it had the workout space.
One of my concerns about staying in my house even past 75, how difficult it had become to find a repairman, to find someone to help with plumbing or a new countertop or whatever.
I don't want to take care of my house anymore. I don't want to mow the yard, I don't want to have it painted, I don't want to replace a water heater, I don't want to do any of that stuff.
The guys are out plowing the road first thing in the morning.
The other thing that I really love about living at Lakeview Village is that it's lock and go for travel.
We have 24-hour security. We know all of the people that work security.
We have a bookstore, we have a bank, we have restaurants.
For me, I wanted to make sure I was in a place where I did have a community, and I certainly have found a wonderful community here.
Lakeview Village is in a quiet location. It doesn't have highways zooming past. It feels like a neighborhood.
I always, when I walk around, it's like it has that small town feel to it. You know, like my hometown where I was born. And I love that feeling.
And I would encourage anybody that's even contemplating it, come to Lakeview. We are not your mother's retirement home.
Well, hello to all of you and welcome to this virtual presentation from Lakeview Village in Lenexa, Kansas. Thanks so much for being with us. We are in the fourth of a four-part series, Retirement Education and Strategy series. Today, we are talking about tax benefits when it comes to communities like Lakeview Village and other life care and life plan communities. So we hope to get you educated today. I am Valissa Smith. I am your facilitator for this event today. Our special guest, the guy in the know, I'm really glad he's here because I know nothing about taxes other than paying them, is Heath Luke. Heath, how's it going?
Good.
Good. So glad you're here. I know, and I kind of want to say this off the top, a lot of this information is like really detailed. It kind of squeezes my brain anyway because I don't have the brain you have. And it may be the case for folks today too. I would encourage them, if you can, to take notes, but also to know that as the information is presented to you, maybe it's best just to listen. And then if you do have questions afterwards, we're going to take questions. But certainly, even tomorrow, the next day, you can reach out to Lakeview Village and they will make sure to get those questions answered. Because you guys are just all about educating consumers, aren't you?
Yes, the senior living consumers.
Senior living in particular.
Yes.
Just those consumers, that's right. And so, yeah, what is that about? Is that sort of across the industry, or just everybody in senior living is a bunch of good guys, or what? Or is that particular to you, Heath?
I think most senior living communities have that same type of mantra per se. My goal has really always been to just make sure that we have an educated senior living consumer. There's a lot of different contract types, a lot of different obligations organizations are making or not making. So really at the end of the day, my goal is just to make sure everybody understands what they're buying. What are they getting? Make sure that they understand what that means today and what that means tomorrow. Those are the big things, just making sure that, everybody's educated and they're making the right decision and have the information to make the decision that's best for them.
And when we hear tax benefits, I think all of us, our ears perk up like, oh, there could actually be a tax benefit to moving into a life plan, life care community like Lakeview Village. So this will be kind of interesting information for folks to learn. I'm sure it's piqued a lot of interest for sure. A little bit about Heath, for those of you who may not know Heath. He is the Chief Financial Officer at Lakeview Village. You've got a bunch of experience, 10 years at Lakeview Village in particular, or in senior living in particular, and then 10 years prior to that as a CPA, and obviously both Kansas and Missouri, so you're knowledgeable in this metro area from folks coming from both sides of the state line, right?
Yeah.
Very good. Well, we're so glad to have you here and interested to hear what you have to say. Now, if you want to ask a question today, which you probably will, the questions, the ability to ask a question, there's a form that's literally like right under this screen that I'm sitting in. You just scroll down on your computer screen, you'll see that form, put in your name, put in your question, the best that you can, because I know there's going to be a lot of details coming at you. Hit submit, we'll get those, and we will get as many answered as we can today. And if we don't get yours answered exactly the way you want or not get to it at all, then Lakeview Village will reach out to you and make sure that you get your question answered as well. Okay, so I say take it away and educate us about tax advantages.
All right, great. Thanks, Valissa. We started this retirement education and strategy series. This is the fourth part. I will say this is probably that strategy part of the education that we're going to provide. So just want to highlight what we're going to cover today. We're going to cover the IRS medical and dental expense deduction, and how maybe a senior living contract would qualify for that medical deduction. And then I'm going to actually provide you a working example of how that would look at Lakeview Village. I do want to highlight, I'm not an active CPA. I'm not providing any tax advice. Every tax situation is different. So what you hear in this presentation really needs to be substantiated by your own personal tax strategy. And then really it kind of is going to depend on the contract type and some other factors that we'll cover up. But that's my disclaimer. Just note that I'm not a tax accountant, but I will say always reach out to your senior living counselor at Lakeview if you have questions, whether you're looking at Lakeview or another community. I'd be glad to educate you, look at their contract. But most communities that do have a tax benefit are going to ultimately tell you about that when you go visit them. So if they're not talking about a tax benefit, then that's probably some things in their contract that don't allow for that. So let's get right into to this. So let's start at the top and understand, where are we talking tax benefit? Okay, do I get a deduction? How does that work? Where does it go on my tax return? okay, this tax deduction or this tax benefit is really going to qualify under the medical and dental expense deduction. It is an itemized deduction on your tax return. So not to get too far in the weeds, there's the standard deduction and itemized deduction. This would fall under Schedule A of your itemized deduction. So you're going to need to really consult your tax advisor for that complete tax code understanding. But what I've highlighted here is if you Google topic 502 or Google medical and dental expenses, IRS, you're going to get a nice short little summary on what may qualify and how this deduction is used. So I just pulled this up here and just to highlight, if you itemize your deductions for a taxable year on Schedule A, these itemized deductions, you may be able to deduct the expenses you paid in that year for medical or dental care for yourself, your spouse, or your dependents. And really one of the qualifying factors is, this deduction can't exceed 7.5% of your adjusted gross income. These are all things that your accountant's probably aware of. Probably the bigger thing that you need to know is that there's this deduction out there that you can take advantage of, and we need those qualifying medical or dental expenses to aggregate up in order to make up that deduction. So, like I would say, if you want to get a little bit into the weeds, you can Google medical and dental expense deduction IRS, and they got some really, really quick FAQs on this to go a little bit deeper. All right. So now we kind of know where this medical deduction is going to fall in our tax return. Let's talk about what would qualify a senior living community to have a potential tax benefit. So that's going to fall back to the contract types. And we're going to need to understand some keywords. So LPC, Life Plan Community, formerly known as Continuing Care Retirement Community. This is the broad name of communities that may offer life care. And that's that contract that we'll talk about in a little bit here. Then you're going to have your entrance fee, or EF. This is that one-time fee usually paid at the beginning when you enter the community to enter the community. This entrance fee, if it's going to have a medical deduction, a portion of that entrance fee is going to be related to healthcare, and we'll talk about that here in a second. Then you're going to have your ongoing monthly service fee, your MSF. This is going to be ongoing, paid monthly, and this monthly service fee is usually going to cover your utilities, telephone, cable, property taxes, and it's going to vary based on community. But those are the key words that we're going to use: life plan community, entrance fee, monthly service fee. That monthly service fee may also, depending on the contract type, may have a healthcare portion related to that. And I'm going to break down these and show you how that's going to work. Okay, let's step back. For the ones that were on my previous education series, we really got into depth on the contract types and really understood a type A, a type B, a type C, a rental, and an equity. So we do need to highlight and understand these contract types in this context, though, to understand how a community offering these type of contracts, you may be able to utilize or have a tax benefit. So here's a busy matrix. But note that our Type A contract, this is your Lakeview Village. This is the current contract we offer. You're going to have an entrance fee up front that includes unlimited health care per se, your monthly service fee that you're going to pay monthly and is most likely going to go up annually. That monthly service fee under a Type A is all you pay. That monthly service fee will follow you as you access health care. Type A, usually the benefits under a Type A is these future healthcare expenses become really predictable. The resident moves through the continuum that's already planned out. The life plan community or community is really absorbing all that risk and to fulfill those contractual obligations. And you really have this guaranteed access to healthcare continuum. And since this is on one community, this really puts a lot less stress on the family or spouse as we're mapping out that care plan. So as you can see right here in the middle, a traditional true Type A life care contract, such as Lakeview Village, comes with a tax benefit. And I'm going to break that out for you here in a second. Then you have your Type B or your modified, and you're going to have an entrance fee just like the Type A that includes health care. You're going to have a monthly service fee like the Type A, but that monthly service fee is most likely under the Type B going to go up as you access assisted skilled nursing or as you move through that continuum of care. The cost of care is usually discounted, so that monthly service fee that you pay and your higher level of care, usually under a Type B, is a negotiated discounted rate. Because your entrance fee and monthly service fee under a Type B and a Type A include that healthcare component, you have a potential tax benefit under a Type B contract as well. Again, under a Type B, because they're contractually obligated to provide those healthcare services, you're going to have that preferred guaranteed access to the continuum. The life plan community here is going to share that risk of that healthcare cost down the road. And really under both an A and B, and sometimes a C, you really need to understand the financial strength of the organization, because these communities under an A, B, or C are promising to take care of you, are promising to provide future services, are promising to refund a contract, an entrance fee down the road. So you need to make sure that these organizations that fall under an A, B, and C are financially sound. And that's really key there to kind of do your homework when you're looking at communities. So under a B, again, that community is going to offer that healthcare services, and that continuum of care is going to be mapped out. Under the Type C, you're really going to pay an entrance fee to get into the community, but you're going to have no health care. That monthly service fee really only applies when you're in independent living, and when you access a higher level of care, assisted living or skilled nursing, you're going to pay market rates for that cost of care. As such, you're not going to have a tax benefit on that monthly service fee or entrance fee when you're in independent living, but when you access the higher level of care and when you're in skilled or assisted, that fee that you pay may very well have a tax benefit. But under the Type C contract, when you're in independent living, you will not have access to a tax benefit under a Type C. Under Type C, the resident really carries all the risk for that health care. These communities may or may not guarantee health care, so you may have to leave that community to get the level of care that you need. So some offer preferred, some don't even have healthcare services on their campus, so that's something to be cognizant of. And knowing that under a Type C, you really still have to consider those financial implications as you navigate through the continuum of care when you're selecting that higher level of care. Under the rental or fee for service, there's really no entrance fee here. You pay a community fee. These community fees are usually set at a lower dollar amount. They can range anywhere from $10,000 to $50,000 for the community fee. These really are buying you into the community for the amenities in independent living. You're going to pay that monthly service fee in IL in independent living, but it is going to graduate or get higher as you access assisted or skilled to that higher level of care. You're actually going to step up to the market rate under a rental and what we call a fee for service model. And really the Type C and the rental really work very similar in that they both don't have a tax benefit. The resident carries the risk for the cost of care. And under both models, there's usually no commitment made to the resident for health care. The rentals are usually annual agreements as well, so these can change annually, and the organizations can potentially change those contracts. That could ill will benefit the resident just because they're annual agreements. They're able to look at those every year. So those are the contract types at a very high level. What we're going to focus on out of here is really those Type A and Type B, those contracts that come with that tax benefit. So here's just a quick summary. A Type A life care contract will have a tax benefit for the healthcare component. A Type B may or may not have a potential tax benefit, is kind of how that's structured, but most likely is going to have a tax benefit for the component of that entrance fee or monthly service fee attributable to healthcare. Under the Type C, rental, and even the equity that we didn't mention today, those really have no healthcare component when you're buying into the community, and that monthly service fee doesn't have a healthcare component. Therefore, there is no tax benefit, because where we're really going towards is that medical itemized deduction, and that's where this is going to qualify for that tax benefit. So we really got to have that medical expense there in order to qualify. So those are our contract types that would qualify. So let's jump right into an illustration. So we talked about where this is going to be on our tax return, and you may probably want to reach out or have your accountant reach out to me, but let's just walk through this illustration here. So let's get some key facts. We're going to assume that this resident moves in on January 1st. So we're going to assume 12 full months of monthly service fee. That has an entrance fee for a first person entrance fee of $243,000. A second person's entrance fee of $35,000. So if you're coming at a couple, you're going to pay $278,000 to move in on January 1st. Then you're going to pay your monthly service fee. So the monthly service fee based on 12 months of services for a first and second person is going to aggregate up close to $68,000 in year one. So that's covering both monthly service fees of the first and second person, which would come in about $68,000 for a full year. That's assuming 12 months. And really why I illustrate this way, it's just kind of easy to see if you were to move in on January 1st and you can take every number and divide it by 12 in the example to get to the monthly amount. So then that first year, you add your entrance fee of $278 and your monthly service fee of $68,748 to where we've paid into the community $346,748. That's a big number, right? But let's break that back. So what we do annually at Lakeview is we are actuarially, we have an actuarial calculation performed on our financial statements related to our service obligation. This ultimately helps us determine what portion of this entrance fee and monthly service fee is attributable to healthcare, right? Because that's what the IRS wants to know. They want to know, okay, you've paid $347,000 in. Do you get to take the full amount as a healthcare deduction? And what we do annually, coupled with our financial statement audit, our actuarial results that's performed by a third party, we model this back based under current standards that are accepted by the IRS. And I issue a letter annually to our residents that says 43.76% of your entrance fee and monthly service fee is attributable to medical expenses. And this letter comes out with this detail, and you get a summary of what you paid the community for your documentation, and it's signed by me, and it references the case law that this deduction is allowed. But that's really going to be your support. So in year one, you've paid $346,000 in, but you have a potential $52,000 tax benefit. That tax benefit is now going to follow in your itemized deductions, and you're going to get to take advantage of Schedule A. That's probably going to get your accountant pretty excited in years that you may have, required minimum distributions. You may want to, here's a track strategy, do a Roth conversion in the year that you move into the community, ultimately paying the taxes at a lower rate and then taking that distribution. So there's some tax strategies there. Or some individuals may have an outstanding tax asset that they need to basically recognize or realize, and this Schedule A deduction in some cases and in most cases can be used to offset the potential tax asset in the year that you realize it.
So you send a letter then to all the residents, is that how that works?
Yes. We send a letter annually to all of our residents that outline the fees that they pay. So in the first year, it's going to outline your entrance fee and everything else. And then in year two, it's just going to be your monthly service fee. And that letter we've been doing for decades is the letter that, God forbid someone gets audited, but what I tell my residents is I stand behind my letter. So if you take my letter and you use that on your tax return, that's what I'm going to stand behind is what's on that letter. And that's the box that I'm going to put myself in. And ultimately, that letter is developed and has been developed with attorney help as well. So let's go to year two. So, okay, we've been there for a year. We got a great deduction in year one because we had that entrance fee that we paid in. In year two, you're really going to get that monthly service fee. So the assumptions I made here are a 4% increase on that monthly service fee. So in year two, you would pay in approximately $72,000 under the percent method. That would be right around a $31,000 medical deduction. Under the modified percent method, you would have $21,000. So the other thing to also note around this medical deduction is if, let's say in year three, okay, so the tax accountant's doing your work and saying, well, there's really no benefit this year. Year three goes, and you incur a lot of other medical expenses, maybe a hip or some other incurred services during the year, and you can take the letter that I provide and the monthly service fee calculation and add that to your other medical expenses, either in year one and year two, and then ultimately gives you that threshold, brings up that threshold of those medical expenses. And that's something that really becomes to on the medical expenses you pay for directly. You're going to want to retain that documentation as you add up the medical expense. So in year two, you have a potential tax benefit here of right around $31,000. And it's really for the finance, accounting people, it's really getting you into that itemized deduction category and is allowing you to take advantage of maybe potentially some other things that are not medical related that fall on Schedule A. Again, those are the discussions you're going to want to have with your CPA as you go into this. And that's also, you want to take these calculations, because when you look at paying in potentially $250,000, $300,000, and you're like, but I'm getting a $100,000 tax benefit, and you may do a Roth conversion or other tax planning strategy, that true net cost in year 1 and year 2 and ongoing may be substantially less, because you are accessing a tax benefit that wouldn't otherwise be available because you're really stepping up over that standard deduction. So I know that's really in the weeds on that one. And all I can say is I would love to meet you in person. It doesn't fail. Usually last week of January, I'm getting the questions, when we getting the letter? And then usually last week of February, early March, it's, hey, do you have a second to talk to my tax accountant? Or I'm getting an email from a tax accountant. It's like, all right, I'm reading your letter. First time I've dealt with it. What does this mean? And I'm glad to educate the financial advisors, the tax accountants. I do it all the time, and I really, really take this as a point to educate them. So as they're doing your tax strategy, they know how this fits in. And a lot of times your investment or financial planner may not, at first maybe seeing $300,000 out the door. And then once you kind of back into what the net tax advantage is, they may go, oh, wow, that's really not as bad as I think. And really, we have this deferred asset over here that I've been waiting for your tax bracket to come down that we can actually access now. So a lot of things to consider there, and it plays, every situation's different, which is why I really extend, since every situation's different, come out and meet with me, reach out to your sales counselor. I'm glad to kind of provide any information you need to help you make that decision. Because at the end of the day, like I said, when we started this at the beginning, it's really making sure you guys are educated consumers when it comes time to making the decision of what life plan community to buy into.
Well, I know you mentioned this off the top, but I think we have to mention it again, and that is that, yes, you were a CPA, but people need to talk to their own tax advisor, right?
Right, and my wife's a tax director at a local regional firm, so I actually go to my wife for tax advice.
See?
You always got to have an advisor.
So that is important, though, for folks to know that this is not you giving them advice. This is you simply giving them some quality information.
Right, exactly.
Well, we've got some questions that are coming in that we want to get to those. And some of this, I know that you've talked about, but I feel like it's worth bringing it up again because, again, this is some complicated stuff. Marty wants to know, how do I report this on my tax return?
Yeah, great question. You're going to report it under, to get technical, it's Schedule A, itemized deduction schedule, but it's going to be on your standard 1040. And it's going to fall in that medical and dental expense line item. And really, that's all you really need to know is you report it in that line. And then I give you that letter annually that you save with your tax return, or God forbid you lose it. Yeah. We got them saved at the community for decades, but that's really going to be the support that you need to support that line on your tax return. And your accountant's going to like to see that, okay, yep, it's just not a number. Here's the dollars I show paid, because we give you an annual statement that then works with my letter, that then you basically have all the documentation you need for your tax return.
And this one may fall into that same category that you just talked about. Carol says, what kind of documentation do I need if the IRS asks for it? Should I get audited?
Yeah, that's coupled along with that question. That's a great question. So the letter that I provide my residents, it ultimately references the tax code and tax law under which life plan communities are carrying CCRCs, basically have qualified for the healthcare, basically the prepaid healthcare on the entrance fee and monthly service fee. There's actually case law out there, so we reference that in our letter. The letter references the percentages and the dollar amount, that alternate percentage. And then that, I kind of describe annually how we've kind of come up with that number. So then if we go back in time, the support that you need is there. And then we also supplement that with a recap of what you annually paid to Lakeview, which you'll want to keep your bank statements to prove that it actually came out of the bank. But you're going to get the documentation from Lakeview that ultimately states, here's what the percentage is this year based on our calculation, and here's what you paid Lakeview.
Okay. So all of that you will provide?
Yep.
Now, Patricia's question is, so why would a community with an entrance fee not have a tax benefit? Why would I not get a tax deduction?
Yeah, that's a great question. And we went really into depth in the contract education series about this one. But that really comes back to contract type. And more importantly, is there a healthcare component of that contract? So when Lakeview or another type A or type B type life plan community is ultimately contracting with you, in that contract, there's very specific statements, such in Lakeview's, that we will provide you the level of care that you need. As you need a higher level of care, here's what it means for you when you access assisted or skilled. So basically, it comes back to if that entrance fee includes your access to healthcare and includes ultimately a discount or some future payment towards healthcare, that's really what you need in order to get that medical deduction. So you may have a community that may offer highly refundables, 90, 100% refundable contract to get into the community. Some would just call that a big community fee, right? There is no healthcare component that really is for you to buy into the independent living unit. Therefore, there's no contractual obligation for them to provide health care. Therefore, you don't have the qualification of it paying for health care, which makes it ultimately a tax deductible item. So really, it's in that contract, and that contract needs to state that they're going to provide you health care.
You know, we talked about contracts in the June virtual event, and I think it's worth mentioning because there was so much great information in that June virtual event that if folks were interested in listening to that, if by chance they didn't hear that one, they could reach out to Lakeview Village and you guys will get them a link so that they can hear all about those. There's so many different types of contracts for folks to really understand how all of these two things fit together. So folks can reach out to Lakeview Village to get a link to learn more about, the contract piece of all of this, right?
I would agree. If I had the time, I would sit down, watch the contract one, and then watch this tax advantages one, because it's almost like a continuation into, okay, now I understand what I get contractually. Now that I understand that, I can see where it fits into my tax strategy.
Okay. Jen's question, if you have other healthcare expenses, can you add those with the deductions, say, from Lakeview Village?
Yep, absolutely. If those healthcare expenses meet that IRS definition of a qualified medical expense, qualified dental expense, again, just do a Google search, medical deduction, IRS. They got some FAQs. But if those qualify for that medical deduction, you can take the Lakeview amounts paid in, and then anything else you've paid in that qualifies on that line, and aggregate them up.
So in the last 10 years that you've been in this industry, Heath, have you seen the tax laws change?
Yeah, I have. A few years ago, the percent adjusted gross income percentage was 10%. So it went up to 10% for a couple of years. It was 7.5% decade ago for a few decades, and then it raised to 10%. And then this last tax reform, they brought it back down to 7.5%. So there are some small nuances that have changed, but the medical tax deduction has been available for several years.
Gotcha. Okay, so Rollin's question, and it's a good one. How have you used this tax deduction as part of your tax strategy?
Yeah, there's several different ways. If you have a deferred tax asset, per se, that could result from many different things. The rolling of a capital gain that it's finally time to realize. But one that I've seen most recently and how it's being utilized quite oftenly is the Roth conversion. So in year one, you pay all this money into Lakeview. You have other medical expenses. You may have this tax deferred 401k, 403b. You're basically your IRA type, your traditional IRA. Well, a Roth conversion, ultimately, you would take this medical deduction and it would bring your taxable effective tax rate down. And then so your financial advisor and your CPA may want to get together and say, I want to do a Roth conversion, which is I'm going to take this money in my investment account and pay the taxes up to a certain dollar amount. Therefore, when I go to access those investments in the future, I'm not going to pay taxes because the taxes have already been paid. That's one that I've seen utilized several times over, and that one takes a little bit of planning. That's one I will say if you have a deferred tax asset or your traditional 401k, 403b retirement accounts that you're going to have to pay some taxes on because those taxes were deferred. That's when you can utilize this medical deduction, driving down your effective tax rate. We recognize the income, and then ultimately what you're paying today is substantially less than what you normally would. So that's one. There's several other ones. Every situation's different. People have wound down businesses and had large amount of business income or retained earnings that they needed to take into income. So they've prepaid healthcare and have purchased an entrance fee unit at Lakeview Village in order to try to offset that. So several different strategies. I think the biggest thing to note is when you're talking with your financial professional and your CPA, you're telling them, I'm going to have a large medical deduction. What does this mean for me? One of the other things to note here is the IRS is on the cash basis. So the timing of how you make those payments or how you take those deductions are all based on cash basis. So you wouldn't be able to pay all of your entrance fee and monthly service fee this year and then next year do a Roth conversion and think you're going to get the same benefit. So there's timing implications involved. It can be, you can make it as complicated as you want. You can make it as simple as you want. It's really everybody's situation's different. And what I can do is I can provide to you some real dollars. And if you're looking at real units and what that may translate into a true tax benefit and what you may actually be able to put in that line along with other expenses to actually take that deduction. So then you can tangibly take that number back to your CPA financially planner and go, I'm looking at this unit with this entrance fee, this monthly service fee, and this move-in date. Here's the potential I have in front of me. What can we do with that?
Oh, nice. So if someone is trying to determine whether they're going to go with or a villa or whatever, they can use this then to calculate the difference before they ever sign the contract.
Absolutely. And that's another thing, I would say, as you're looking at other communities that may not have a healthcare deduction, so their entrance fee may be lower or maybe right in line with ours. But then once you look at the tax benefit you're going to get in year 1, year 2, and ongoing, our contract may actually be, a lot less financially over the life of that contract because of the tax benefits that you're going to get to experience.
Wow. That's something a lot of people don't think about in the beginning when they're looking at the contracts and they're contemplating which community. This can really help them figure all of that out.
Yeah, it's one reason why we have this one presentation just on tax advantages, because you hear that, you're like, well, what does that mean? Oh, it's too complicated for me. Well, does that apply to me? One of the things that you have to know is this exists out there for certain type of communities. I mean, not only Lakeview Village, there's other communities in Kansas City that you can take this benefit. There's other communities that look like they may have a benefit, but don't. So it's really getting into that contract, evaluating it, really looking at what you're buying. Is there a healthcare component? And, like I said at the beginning, I love educating seniors. If I can provide the knowledge, get it out of me, reach out to Lakeview, a senior living consultant. I do virtual Zooms, we come out, tour the community, sit down in my office, whatever you feel you need in order to help make that decision, whether it's choosing Lakeview or not.
Heath, is there anything you want to add today before we close this up?
Absolutely. A few things to highlight, that I always, not necessarily on the slide, that I always like to highlight about Lakeview is we are rated annually by Fitch. We have an annual audit every year performed on our financial statements. We do quarterly disclosures for our investors and our residents. So we're really, really transparent about our financial stability and our strengths. So we're proud of that. And then a few things more about Lakeview and the community. We're a 501c3 not-for-profit, and really we provide a full array of senior living on our 100-acre campus. We have 2 lakes, walking trails, completely maintenance free. We got some awesome villa homes, some great apartments that look at the lake or look into the wooded area. We have a 5-star state-of-the-art inpatient and outpatient rehabilitation to the point to where we have usually a wait list to get on that unit. Our healthcare services also include, our nursing, our assisted living, and our long-term nursing care. So under the CMS guidelines, we are a 5-star CMS rated community as well. And one of the other nice things about Lakeview is we are a local not-for-profit. We are only one entity. So we exist right in Lenexa, Kansas, right on campus. The president, CEO, and COO, and chief HR individual, we all house in our main building there together. So residents have direct access to us. Our board is actually composed of local community members, attorneys, accountants, bankers that help us. Basically, the board help guide the community in perpetuity. So, because our main goal here is to continue to provide this care forever, even long after I'm gone. Lakeview has a long history and will continue to fulfill these contractual obligations. Just a couple other highlights. We have, 3 restaurants and a bistro. We have a child development center on campus. We have an art studio, tons of woodwork. We have a few different woodworking shops. Just a lot of different amenities on the campus and a lot of different resident-run groups. We have a thrift shop that's resident-run, a library that's resident-run, a lot of different volunteer activities. So it's really a really great community, and the fact that you have your unit inside of basically the backing of a much larger community. And what that can mean, that's kind of behind the scenes, is yeah, you're excited to come to Lakeview. What does that mean? Well, I'm ready to access healthcare. Well, you got a full social working team behind you when that time comes. Oh, I don't know how to handle my bill with long-term care insurance or Medicare. Can you help me understand this? We have a full billing department that's very versed in that. So not only do you get access to the real life amenities, you get access to a large community and can help you navigate really through any senior living endeavor. Lakeview Village has a foundation. Foundation has a fund that we call the Good Samaritan Fund. Lakeview Village, when we contract with a resident, we financially and healthcare qualify an individual. So there's a lot of different components of that. But let's just say you move in your mid-70s and you live till you're 100, which has been the case. We have live cases of that. But let's say, under no fault of your own, you came in with the idea that you may have 15 to 17 years of assets. Well, 20 years come by and you're like, I can't afford the monthly service fee. Well, Lakeview Village Foundation will then step up and help with financial assistance to our entrance fee contract holders so that they can stay in that unit and still access to health care. So really, we're going to provide that level of care to you, even if you run out of assets, if it's no fault of your own, and that level of care, and your unit won't change. So we won't downsize you or move you around. It's really a confidential agreement. And like I said, it's one of those things on the back end that residents like to know they have that security net. But then we also have residents on the other end that give to the foundation knowing that, hey, I want to take care of my neighbor as well. So and that is one of the benefits that come along with Lakeview, is we have our foundation to help.
It's a lot of detailed information. So if we didn't get to your question today, or if you have a question that comes up in a day or two, pick up the phone and reach out to Lakeview Village. They are there for you. Heath is there for you. You can set up a one-on-one appointment with Heath if you would like. They are there to educate you, help you get the information you need so that you can make a great decision when it comes to making a decision about moving into a senior living community, a retirement community like Lakeview Village. And we look so forward to having you again at another virtual event. Have a great day, everybody.